Hey guys, back again for another week of Industry Insights. I'm here with Natalie Tannous this time. Doing things a little bit differently again this week. So some of you might remember from our first episode, we actually already covered IXOM. We interviewed Will Harrison and gave us a great overview of the business and the supply chain side of the company. And we did promise that we would actually get to the more technical process engineering water side of the business, which Natalie here is actually a part of. Fortunately, Natalie couldn't join us in the first week, so we thought we'd invite her back on later on when we could get her. And hopefully you guys can get a lot out of this side of the business. So Natalie, first of all, how are you doing?
I'm good, Cameron. How are you?
Yeah, doing pretty good, as well as can be expected really with this stage 4 lockdown we're stuck into now. So I mean, it's all the more reason to keep going. Yeah, all the more reason to make some more episodes. Got a bit more free time.
Yeah, more of the reason to connect to more people while we can.
Exactly.
Stay connected is important.
Definitely. So Nat, you're a process engineer in the water treatment services team at IXOM. Obviously, we've already heard a bit of background from Will about IXOM as a company. Can you kind of explain a bit about the water treatment side of the business?
Yeah, sure. So IXOM, just quick rundown, very quick. So within each businesses focus have different business units and areas of which they focus on, or different divisions. And within each division, there are more sub-technical expertise units. So my team, Water Treatment Systems, you'll hear me say WTS from now on probably.
It's a lot easier.
We fall under the Water Care division. So the Water Care division essentially is the division in IXOM that focuses on water treatment solutions and providing customers and clients with solutions for their water treatment needs. Within water care, it's big. There's different expertise areas, and majority of it is actually based in the US.
Okay.
The majority is based in the US. So Water Treatment Systems, so WTS, which is the team I'm in, we're actually based in head office here in Melbourne. So we're a small part, or we're kind of like a small part of the water care team, like one of the elements there. So that's kind of how we fit into the whole side of IXOM. So essentially, the water care team, the WTS team, we solve customers' water treatment solutions.
Okay, so it's pretty much it's like client-based solutions to water care problems.
Exactly right. So we're a client-based team. Same with just water care in general. Someone would approach us with a water query, or and we'll just help try and solve
their problem. Just get a design brief, and then you kind of come up with a solution, and you say, hey, do we need a physical object here, or is it just kind of like a testing and treatment issue? And then you kind of tailor make a solution. Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah,
so who would you say is mainly your main clients? Is it a particular industry, or is it kind of requests you get from all over the place?
Yeah, so just with WTS, we mainly, a lot of our, one of our key expertise is with mining. So we do have a lot of mining customers where we treat a lot of their runoff water or their wastewater, or when you mine, there's a lot of water that you get developed from the ground, which they store in dams, and we treat all of that so that way that you can either be reused in the process somewhere or safely discharged to the environment. So that's one key, a key clientele that we have, we're pretty big with. But other than that, we also do with a lot of councils. Some of our clients are councils. You've got the food and beverage industry. We've got a lot of the industrial. We can also target the industrial industry as well. So I guess treating cooling tower water, for example, is just one. Yeah, really, we do large scale.
Okay.
But it's kind of...
So it's a bit all over the place. Anyone who really has a large water treatment kind of issue, they can kind of come to you, and you can kind of assess it and turn it into a project.
Assess it and approach it. So exactly. So predominantly recently, I think most of our projects last year were for mines. But we do have done a lot of work for a lot of councils too, not just based in Victoria or just around Australia. So predominantly we've done Queensland and New South Wales.
Okay, cool. And then you said that the actual water care division of IXOM is mainly kind of based in the US. Have you got any international or overseas projects that you know of or you're involved in?
Yes. So nothing that our team has been involved in, unfortunately. Just can't wait for the day where they're like, let's just go international.
Always
very
fun.
exciting. So our water care division in the US is predominantly, we've got our commercial team up there, but it's also predominantly for, you guys can all Google this later, called, we have a technology up there called MIX, magnetic ion exchange. It's a IXOM resin that we create. We actually do have a manufacturing plant for MIX here in Melbourne, in Deer Park. The biggest clientele for MIX is actually up in the States. So it's really good, and why it's popular over there, it's used in a lot of, I guess, drinking water treatment, because there's the US has kind of strict regulations around disinfection byproducts.
And
I could talk about this a long time. So if you're interested, have a Google search about
might be a good one to come back to for an in-depth kind of session, just kind of focusing on the resin. Definitely,
it's a pretty cool resin. It's magnetic, so if you had the resin in the jar and you had a magnet, it just follows it. It's so cool. So MIX is really big up in the States, so that's where our main, I guess, the water care division is. We also have they've actually recently acquired a company in the States called Medora, and they have a lot of, I guess, water, like they were leading provider of water treatment and wastewater treatment products and selectors and stuff like that. So they've just moved into the business only recently, so still learning a little bit more about them. But so it's just, I guess, being able to, a lot of analysis of water for clients and being able to determine
definitely
stuff. So it's
very, very, very cool. And I mean, obviously, when you're working on these kind of projects where it is a kind of all-encompassing solution, it requires a lot of different skill sets. So your team, obviously, you're a client-based design team. Are you just employing process engineers or chemical engineers, or is it kind of multidisciplinary?
We're quite multidisciplinary in our team. We are predominantly mechanical process engineers. We have, so our team not only is based in Melbourne, we actually have our team down in Adelaide in South Australia. It's kind of like our design, our manufacturing house down there. So we actually, not only do we design and supply water treatment systems and water treatment solutions, we actually do build and design chemical dosing units or chemical storage stuff. So that's also another side to our business.
So that's cool. So you kind of have the client-based solution, but then you also have your own products so you can kind of supplement into that solution.
Stuff into it, so it's whole world IXOM solution. It's pretty cool. And then, a lot of our team down in Adelaide are our drafters. So we have mechanical engineers who are our drafters, and then they're, they deal with all of the CAD stuff, with the 3D drawing stuff, and the how pipe work should look.
All those 3D models and the complicated 3D models stuff.
So they're all up to that. And then in our team in particular, in the Melbourne team, we have a mechanical engineer and just mainly process engineers. But we do deal externally for projects with civil contractor or civil engineers, electrical engineers, software programmers. So it's hired within our team. It's mainly process and mechanical. But when we go and work on projects, we have to have an interdisciplinary approach where we actually talk to the civil contractors or electrical contractors who have them.
Okay, so you just kind of contract out the work that you don't already have in-house when you do work on those kind of bigger projects that require that little bit of extra help.
Yeah, so in a sense, it's really important to understand the interdisciplinary kind of lingo, or trying to understand different areas to be able to help work with these contractors to be able to provide a solution. Because in the end, it's our project and they're our contractors, so we just need to be able to talk to them and understand kind of what they're saying, because we still don't prove everything. So
it does sometimes seem like a different language.
So technically, another company, the electrical company, just falls under us when we do a big project, essentially. But so we mainly just mechanical. Simple answer is mechanical and process engineers.
Definitely. Okay, so I mean, when you've kind of got that many different roles going around, that many different jobs that have to get done, and sometimes these plants that you guys can work on can be massive. In terms of water treatment, a normal processing plant can range anywhere from 0.5 megaliter up to 10 or 20 megaliters. How do you actually approach each project that you work on? Is there kind of a set methodology in mind, or do you kind of just look at each problem individually and kind of assess what might have to happen?
So when we get a project, obviously a lot of the stuff is like based off the size or like the capacity of the plant. That's the first thing you usually always look at, is like, what's our capacity?
Yeah.
Sometimes you actually get dealt with a feed capacity, and sometimes we have a product capacity.
Yeah.
Sometimes we have both. Sometimes, most often, it's just one or the other.
Yeah.
So the way when we get a project, or when we see a project, it's a bid for, or when we kind of first start off with, okay, what's the size of this project? Like, what's our product water? What's our feed water? How big is this plant going to be? Then we kind of look into the, the water quality, and then just break it down like that. So I wouldn't necessarily say we have like a set 100% set methodology that we follow each and every time. I think we just kind of look at each project kind of like as a whole new project, and it is a whole new project. We just kind of just look at each project, and we just go kind of like based off past experiences and stuff, break down how we want to approach it. And whatnot, but like there's like kind of rule of thumbs that we have in house, like that we follow. This is, we should be looking at this, then we look at this, then we look at this, and then we look at this.
Yeah.
But each project's different, so some projects might not require us to follow the complete, need to go through a lot of all of that same trouble. But the way in which we look at a project, it's kind of like the same checkpoints.
Okay, cool. So it's just those past experiences let you know kind of maybe. Not what milestones you have to reach, but more the order you kind of have to get things done in for it to kind of all go smoothly. Yeah,
so past experience, I think with in general life, just experience helps so much. With each project that we do, we always have a chat at the end of it where we like kind of talk about what did we learn from this project, and we always implement something new into the next project. So
just like
no such thing as a perfect project. You just kind of approach each project with like your basic rule of thumbs, and then start incorporating like all of like your learnings from other projects on how to approach things, because no matter what, every project is completely different. It's similar, but it's completely different.
Can definitely relate to that. So, I mean, when you're building these projects, and I mean, you're using past experience to kind of try and figure out the best methodology behind it. In regards to actual technologies that you are using on these projects, how do you kind of decide what needs to happen? Because, I mean, people who are maybe a bit more familiar with WaterCare, listening along at home, there's a lot of different technologies you can use out there. They all kind of achieve slightly different things. How do you decide what actually needs to go into a plant and when you should use it?
No, absolutely. So, I'm still getting myself involved in a lot of the technical stages like that at the moment. We're building on that. So when I came into the team, I jumped into a lot of existing projects. So I did miss quite a bit of the pre-design phase. Essentially, the way we look at it is usually when we're going for a project, we've got the feed capacity or the product capacity, and we have the water quality. If we don't get given the water quality, I don't think we're going to know what we're going to do. How are we going to design a plant? It's just, it's good times. So we get given the feed water quality, so what we're going to actually be treating. And most often, we actually get given a product water quality. What does the product need to be? So... and when we kind of start look at what do we have, what contaminants do we have in the water that we need to remove, and then we look at the products. Okay, what levels do we need to get these down to? So you kind of look at the feed, like what you're starting with and what you need to end with. Most often than not, we are discharging to an environmental source. So it could be a creek, it could be a river, and that requires an EPA license from the customer side. And then we have to follow what the EPA license wants. So it's quite often low in metals. So that's why more often than not, in basically all of our water treatment plants, we have an RO, which is a reverse osmosis system. Have a YouTube of how it performs if you'd like, because I could explain it. It just essentially removes dissolved solids from the water.
What we might do is we might chuck a bunch of links to all the different technologies.
Links, just do that. Because
otherwise this will chop all of the time we've got today.
Technology, there's so many technologies, but RO is definitely a big one we use, and we know it works, and we can definitely rely on it. So when we have, for example, when we're discharging to the creek and we know we need quite low metals, and we know we're dealing with high metals, then we put it through an RO. And then we're like, okay, cool, we have an RO in our system. There are certain limits to the feed water into that treatment.
You can only kind of tolerate so much.
You can only tolerate. So an RO is very, very sensitive to a lot of different contaminants. So you obviously not only want to be able to treat the water to the best that you can, but you also want to take care of your equipment and your membranes and everything that you're using. So we have an RO, we look at the feed water, okay, we need to make sure that these contaminants are out of the water. In particular, these are iron and manganese.
Yeah.
So then we look at what other technologies we can use to remove iron and manganese before the RO.
Okay. Yeah, it makes sense.
So one, it can, like, there might not be high iron and manganese, and it might not be dissolved, and it could all be like suspended solids.
Yeah.
Then we might throw it through a UF membrane, and then the pre-treatment just becomes a UF membrane. So a UF ultrafiltration membrane, that could be the treatment, and that just removes suspended solids, and that could be enough. Sometimes you might have a really high dissolved content, and then we might look at other processes. So we could look at coagulation, for example, and adding a flocculant and a coagulant in there to remove those metals that way. Or recently, for a project that we've recently completed, we've used coated media, and the media that we used is called DMI 65, and it's a catalytic media designed by this company, I think based in Perth. We'll put the link up what it is. And it actually targets iron and manganese, and it removes iron and manganese through the media.
Yeah.
So that's, I guess, the concept of like technical, how we kind of rotate the circle, essentially. But so sometimes we don't go all in order. Sometimes we go, okay, look, what do we need at the end? Like we know that this is going to get us good quality, and then we go backwards. So pre-treatment side of things.
Okay, so even then, there's still no kind of set order. You just have that past experience saying, okay, this should kind of be in somewhat of this order, but based on the actual specific project and the requirements of the client, we might have to move a few things around, or we might have to choose this different system compared to what we normally use because it's preferred for whatever reason.
Exactly.
So things are always kind of changing and evolving, and it kind of makes that debrief at the end so much more important.
And so it's just like everything just is always endlessly changing. It's definitely ensuring that, and not only but sometimes with the design, it can be constricted by cost too. So, sometimes a client might come back to us and say, look, we want this substantially cheaper, and then you have to kind of revisit other options on how you can actually make it cheaper. So again, sometimes pre-treatment can be held off because of cost, or like can be dependent on cost.
Delayed,
So, but essentially, like we use our past experience of like sometimes water quality. Okay, there's no water quality that's ever the same. Ever. Water is like your fingerprint. Like it's unique.
Yeah, everywhere in the world is completely different. Yeah, it relies on so many different factors.
There's so many different factors. Like even though they both look the same, they might have the same. Not that you should drink like contaminated water, but like like they look the same. They look clear, but there are actually contaminants inside that are higher or less. Essentially, so it's really important to just always factor in like what you've got in the water and like what your outcome is, and then understanding each operation that you're going to end up using to make sure that you get to the required water that you need to.
Definitely. So I mean, that kind of takes us through the design phase of actually delivering a project like this, and we've already kind of briefly touched on the first stage, which is obviously the client coming to you with a problem. So for people who are maybe unfamiliar with the whole client-based project world, can you maybe take us through the general steps here that would be involved when you kind of like receive a project from a client all the way to actually delivering that project and then that final solution back to the client?
Yeah, cool. So there are actually two ways we can win projects. So two ways. One of them being the client just goes up to you and be like, hey, IXOM, we want you to do this for us. And that's just straight out the simple way. But then there's another way where there's like all of these bid websites, and so you apply and submit a tender. So it's kind of like you're doing a feasibility study, if you want to think about it like that. And then you can they select you based on their own sets of criteria. So that's the other way to win a project, is by putting yourself out there, like responding to a query that's been put out to the worldwide, like absolutely anybody. So that's the other way to win a project. So let's say we won a project from a bid, or we've won a project because a customer's come to us. The first thing we do is like that bid, and that first initial thing that you do is kind of like the concept design. Like this is what we anticipate everything to be like. And then you move on to a preliminary design. Or actually, first, if we you go preliminary, you got to do your basis of design. What are we designing based on? And then we go into our preliminary design where we kind of have like quite a complete scope of what everything's going to look like. And then the client will kind of give their feedback of like, yes, no, this is what we want. And then we tweak it based off that. And after each submission is done, we have a design freeze to allow the client to have some time to review, and we have review meetings, and then we make changes and amendments based on review meetings. So we have our preliminary design, then we go into our functional design package.
Okay.
How is this going to functionally start working for us? How we're going to be controlling it. It's got a little bit more detail, like this is, and we explain it in more detail. And then from that, again, client reviews, takes comments, and then we move into HAZOPs. And then the HAZOP will be like essentially nitpick every area.
So it's the fun stage of the design.
It's actually honestly one of my favorite stages. I love that. I love a HAZOP. You learn so much in a HAZOP. It's unreal.
Definitely.
Because there's so many things that come up that you think, whoa, didn't even think of that. That's again the purpose of a HAZOP is obviously to make sure that we reduce any risk or potential of risk. But usually, based off experience, a lot of the actions that we have are not that extensive because we always take into account a HAZOP when we are designing. Anyway, and once we do the HAZOP, it comes into like then we tweak the design based on the HAZOP details. Should it be changed? Then after that, you kind of go into the final design. After HAZOP, it's the final design, and then it's like the issued for construction design. And then it gets sent to the contractors, and the contractors start building the plant on site. And then you build it, so you've got the construction phase and the construction management phase. And then once all the plants are there, you're going to, once the plants are there, then you start commissioning. And then from commissioning, you go to performance testing, and then from performance testing, it's either handover or operations. Like IXOM will either operate it, or like the client will either operate it. So it'll be either handover and operations.
Definitely. So I mean, it sounds like it's a long, kind of involved, arduous process. Lots of back and forth between you and the client, obviously being a client-based project. So I mean, you obviously were working as process engineer in that team, delivering those kinds of projects. What would be your kind of normal responsibilities throughout one of these projects?
Yeah, cool. So I'm just trying to think of the most recent. So often than not, like since I started at IXOM, like as a graduate, I've been like crazy busy, like doing so much. For this, like we had one massive project on at the moment, and then like back when I started, it was just massive project. So I was involved a lot. As I said, I was involved in the HAZOPs. I was actually in charge of organizing all the HAZOPs. Keeping track of all of the, helping set up the nodes, keeping track of all of the minutes. As I had a big part in that. I also helped with reviewing designs and drawings and stuff. So I would like look at a PNID, go, okay, hang on a minute, this is actually wrong. We need this to go here. So I did a lot of like reviewing of drawings. Sometimes I get home and got to help out with pump selection, creating data sheets, doing a lot of little bits and pieces, running through chemical projections, chemical usage, like how much chemicals are we going to use. I also do a lot of for this project, I actually did tank size selection too.
Okay.
In particular for the waste dump, so very, very important. Collecting all the waste.
Key component for any system.
Very key. Where all the waste is going to go. So I actually had to model that tank, so that way we could best select the flow rates in the flow rates, so that way we could select pump capacity. So that's stuff I've done. And then again, every project changes a lot. Like I might not just always be doing the same things all the time. And I also got to write documents. So I'd be like writing the process description, writing the design basis, writing helping assist writing the functional description, which is essentially explaining how is this plant going to be controlled, like literally all the nitty gritty.
Yeah, all the kind of background documents that people don't really think of when you're actually just doing kind of like the sizing calculations. You've actually got to figure out, how is an operator actually going to turn this thing on? How's the system designed to run? And just all the normal day-to-day operation stuff. So that doesn't really kind of come up a lot at university.
No, so the only subject that kind of touches on control is I think it's Proc 2090 from memory, which is process control and simulation.
Process,
I think.
Daniel Lester, he gets
Daniel
involved in all
Lester's,
that
that is
stuff.
probably it's the hardest course you'll do, almost guaranteed. It's the hardest course you'll do. He even said it in the
first. A little bit. Okay, it's hard until the mid-sem, but then if you get the mid-sem, it all just suddenly clicks, and it makes so much more sense.
Yeah, because it's a shock to your system. Like you spend all this time at uni, and then you go, "Hang on a minute, we have to talk about control."
Yeah.
So that like me understanding about what needs to be controlled and how things need to be controlled definitely actually helped.
Yeah.
So there's that whole automation side of things that we actually we write, we give it to the programmer that code based off this. So it's a big document. Like I think the one that we have for this project is about over 500 pages or something like that.
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, massive document. So I'll help out with a lot of the design documentation too, with like a lot of these kinds of projects, and kind of semi-drafting P&IDs too, like using CAD or Visio, or like even the process flow diagram I've done as well, just kind of really just kind of this is what it should kind of look like. We do a lot of like, I guess, so asset management stuff. So we've got equipment lists, instrument lists, valve lists, and that's just help us, understand like all of the stuff we have planned and what model just help keep us, it also helps with procurement stuff. And that's another thing I'm very involved with is talking to suppliers and making sure I get the best price.
Yeah, of course, because it all does come down to that bottom line figure at the end of the day, doesn't it?
Everything just kind of comes down to the bottom line figure at the end of the day. So, but yeah, when I get involved with absolutely everything in a project, everything, even the mechanical design, I get involved in a little bit of the site layout, like how should we lay out the site. I bits and pieces I get to be involved in for like a day-to-day like project and stuff. So it's actually pretty cool. So so every day is essentially quite different, or like every week is essentially different for me. Yeah. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it sounds like it takes a lot of getting used to it, a lot of quick adapting and chopping and changing. You've already said it a little bit. It was a bit of a shock jumping from university to that kind of first role at IXOM. How did you actually find your first role at IXOM? Was it through an internship program, a grad program, or did you kind of like know someone there maybe?
Yeah. So I think it was in 2017. I met IXOM at the Big Meet. So that was my penultimate year at uni.
Okay.
Yes. So I met IXOM at the Big Meet, and I was with them for about an hour, just talking. I was like having a great time, just talking to them, like learning about the company, and then I did all my rounds and stuff. But they didn't have a vacation program.
Yeah.
We still don't, but they didn't have the time, and I was like, oh, okay, well, I'm looking for a vacation program, so I better go make more rounds. And then there was one proc class where we had to do that 1 week internship when we had the midweek break. I think it was in summer term too. We had to do it, and I just remember, Margaret saying, you get 5 bonus points if you find your own. I was like, I could do with some bonus points, so I'm going to just email. I only emailed one company, and I emailed IXOM. I was like, hey, I'm a RMIT
from the Big Meet.
Yeah, I was like, I met you at the Big Meet. I'm like really excited. I have to do this thing for uni. I need just 1 week placement. I'm happy to do it for free. Just essentially just like, please, will anyone take me?
Yeah.
And then to my surprise, they actually passed it on, and they asked me, oh, is there anything particularly you're interested in? I said water. Straight out water. I was like, water. And then they passed on the water team, and I'm lucky that my manager likes helping uni students.
Yeah.
And she took me on.
Oh, lovely.
So I did the 1 week there. And then I actually, in that 1 week, I made a great impression. They kept me on casually.
Oh, lovely. It's always great when you can do that.
It's always good. Yeah. And then, that was kind of just a testament to it's just a testament to attitude. Have the right attitude. You will make, you can always make something of yourself.
Definitely.
And again, more to my attitude. So I actually was with them up until November, because I actually had accepted a summer internship at a company called ResMed in Sydney. So I actually moved to Sydney for 3 months.
Oh, that's so nice.
At the end of 2017. And when I came back straight away in like February, I got my job back at IXOM like straight away. She's like, "You're coming in on Monday." I'm like, "Thumbs up." And then again, shows my character, like I was someone worth them wanting to keep. And then I was talking to a colleague one day about grad programs, applying to grad programs, and my manager pulled me aside going, "No, would you let me the role?" So I kind of didn't necessarily go the traditional grad route, but I am kind of an example of what doing vacation work can lead you to happening.
It's all about making those contacts and trying to get that kind of personal connection with the company.
So I like made my mark with the team, like, and they wanted to keep me on, and you know that was just enough. And I wasn't obliged to say yes. I wasn't like, I didn't have to. It was just I was happy where I was. I loved my manager. Like sometimes for your first grad role, it's really important that your development is so important as a grad. Like you want someone who's always going to want to put your development first.
Definitely.
And that's what I had at IXOM, and that's what I had with my team, and that's why I decided to stay.
Oh, that's beautiful. It's a great little story. It's always nice.
Yeah, I love it. It's just so funny.
Story. It's always like you had that one locked and loaded. You've definitely told it a few times before.
I wouldn't say, I've told it with quite a few people before because I had to. It was like, "So how do you go in the application process?" I'm like, I didn't go through the application process. But it just goes to show, like, if there's a company that you like if there's a company that you really want to work for, but they might not have a VAC program, so many things are just not advertised or advertised well. Sending an email to like either their grad recruitment or their just their recruitment in general is just so helpful. Like you just don't know what could come out of it, so it's really exciting that way.
So I mean, speaking of the grad programs, are you actually on a grad program right now? I know Will touched on it a little bit back in the first episode we did, but do you maybe want to just give us a bit of a refresher, like what's involved?
Yeah, sure. So I am on the grad program. I'm a second year grad, so I'll be a third year grad next year, which is the last year of the grad program. I am a very special grad. I do not rotate. However, when you're at IXOM, you rotate through 3 different roles. Unless someone wants to hook, line, you sinker like me and lock you down straight away. And some people actually opt to lock, like some people have gotten their permanent positions locked in as of the end of their second year because they just straight out know they want to go back to something. Which is kind of really good with the grad program is because it gives you different, it's like when you start uni, you don't really know what you want to be doing. It's the same with workforce, you kind of don't know what you want to be doing. So it's kind of like that limbo part. So doing the rotations are actually really helpful to help you kind of go, yes, I definitely want to do this, or no, I don't want to do this. So it's really cool. We have a 3-year grad program. Your first year is a position you get to apply for a certain position that's available. So our grad coordinator will talk to the people of the company who's willing to take a first year grad. So they're already known positions. So at the moment, our grad programs are open. We have 3 positions available. One for a graduate engineer down at our plant in Botany. We have a graduate business analyst for head office and a graduate supply chain role, which is also for head office. And so there's 3 roles available at the moment for the grad. And then your second year rotation, you get to talk to the grad coordinator, who is absolutely amazing about wanting to make sure that you experience, you get the right development and that you're going to experience the right journey. So you just kind of give her your preferences of what you kind of want to learn or what you want to jump into next, and she'll kind of help do the talking, what correspondence. So your second year, you get to technically go where you kind of want to go, and same with your third year. And then your final positions, you fit in the company. And there are so many grads, like people with permanent positions in the company who've been there for 10 years.
The grad program.
It's crazy. We're honestly majority, I wouldn't say majority. There's quite a handful of people.
It's often a bit hard to tell
from the grad program. So it's a good program.
Okay, so it's definitely a good thing to apply for. And you said the applications are closing soon. What was the cutoff date?
Yes, 23rd of August.
23rd of August, okay.
23rd of August.
We'll put the link in the description. And you just apply through the company's website, right?
Yeah, you can find a link to the company's website. I think there's Grad Australia. We're posting it too. Got a link on LinkedIn as well. But I know it's just a grad. If you go through Grad Australia, it shows you the roles that are available and where they're based, essentially.
Perfect. Well, I mean, I think that's just about all the time we've got for this week. Nat, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you and hearing all about the water treatment side of the business at IXOM. For guys listening at home, we'll put the link to the grad program or to their website in the description. I hope you guys got a lot out of this. There's some great knowledge and insights into how client-based projects are actually run and how the whole water treatment side of a business is actually operated on that kind of client project base. That's it for now for us. We'll see you guys next week. This episode's also up on YouTube, but for now, see you guys later.
See you guys. Bye.